Then the next major challenge is energy theft, and that is really huge. Now, it's one thing to look at what the distribution companies are doing, but customer habits too need to change. We are having serious challenges with this entitlement mentality of many consumers. They just feel electricity is their right. And I'm sure you will not believe it if I tell you that even for some of the elite areas, look, we're doing some enumeration now in some of our elite zones, Lekki, we're looking at Oniru, we're looking at some of these areas. 80% of the meters are bypassed. And many of the owners tell you they didn't know that was what was going on. So we need to address that. And that's going to be addressed in the way we deal with energy theft issues. And we're, as DISCOs, working out an arrangement with the law enforcement agencies so that we apprehend these people. There's a summary trial for many of them. We just need to cultivate good habits. You can't go anywhere else and simply just take something and not pay for it. So we need, one, it's important for consumers to understand that you must pay for this. It's a different thing if you dispute the invoice, but to simply bypass it is wrong. So we are working out arrangements with the judicial arm of government. We're going to do a lot of training for judges so they understand how this theft mechanism takes place. So that once people who abuse the systems are brought before them, we get summary trials, justice, and all that to serve primarily as a deterrent. Because when you steal, and I keep saying this, when you allow somebody steal power, you are paying for it in one form or the other. Because power is not a commodity that can be hoarded. So once it comes into the disco, it's pushed out. And once it's pushed out, somebody's got to pay for it. So if you have a neighbor who is not paying because he is doing some unwholesome act not to pay, trust me, one way or the other, you are bearing that cost. So it's not really in your interest to just sort of...
Yeah, perhaps the reason for... I just want to give a reason to that. For the energy theft,
you can't justify
the estimated billing.
You can't
now, I kind of wonder, how does the DISCO come up with this estimated billing? And that's a major concern for most consumers.
Again, that's also, I'm glad you asked that question, because there is a method, there is a methodology for estimated bills. People just give the impression that estimated bills just fall from nowhere. I'm not saying it cannot be abused, but there's a methodology. And if you, I mean, it's too complex for me to explain here, but trust me, there's a methodology. So if for any reason you disagree with an estimated bill, you are encouraged to raise the issue with your DISCO. And what will simply happen is that they will allow you to continue to pay your last undisputed bill until the issue is resolved, because it could be a problem, because some of the meters do have problems. We can argue about that. So it may be meter overreading, or it may be meter malfunction, or it may be no meter at all. But there's a methodology for calculating it. So it's not an excuse whatsoever because you're being estimated that you don't want to pay. The preference should not be to steal power. Theft is theft and it's not good.
Okay, now what every Nigerian would want to know is, when are we going to begin to get constant power supply? So what is your outlook?
It's going to be incremental. We're looking at a sector that had been neglected for, God knows, for more than half a century. And it's this privatization that's bringing many of the issues. That's why me and you understand what the component parts of this power thing is all about. So that's one huge benefit to it. So what needs to be done now is for the, we're going to be having what they call incremental supply. For example, needs today as a country is probably 12,000 megawatts. There's no way TCN can wheel 12,000 megawatts even if that power was available. The entire value chain must work together. On the distribution side of things, the challenge for many of the distribution companies is to reduce losses. I'm sure you've heard the ATC&C losses. That's the challenge. And I know many of them have mechanisms in place to reduce those losses. For example, in EcoDisco, one of the things we're doing is we're automating the system. And the automation will reduce a lot of these arguments about what you consume or what you didn't consume, and we're well into the program. We have what they call SCADA, GIS, many of these things. So we're mapping out and understanding the entire consumer base that we have, and it's going to be pinpointed to the last consumer. And we have a tracking system so that with the sort of two-way communication that most of these new automated systems will bring about, the arguments will not be too much. You will see what you are consuming. I will see what you are consuming. And most importantly, I can disconnect you from a remote location. I don't have to put men at risk who come to disconnect and then are messed up. I mean, there's this sad case of one of our young customers, because we're trying to also modernize the system, who went to disconnect a non-paying customer. She didn't know he had a partial stroke. He naturally was agitated and tried to run after her, and he collapsed and died. But guess what? She was arrested and was going to be charged for murder. I mean, how do you do that to a young graduate who is trying to eke an existence?
Yeah, Mr. Tommy, just before I let you go, I know you talked about funding, of course. The discos have been crying out, we don't have money, we need funding and all that. Is the disco planning to list on the Nigerian Stock Exchange? That's
our plan, ultimately. But you know, there are what they call listing requirements. You want to show a profitable business over an agreed period of time, usually 3 to 5 years. And one of the things we're doing is to work hard to ensure that our books are attractive enough, because once we go public, we're sharing the risk, as it were, and then everybody becomes part owner of this business. The answer is yes.
Okay, thank you very much for your time, Mr. Itomi. That was George Itomi, Director at Discos. After the break, a look at today at the Nigerian Stock Exchange. Do stay with us.